Yesterday we were talking about which knowledge should we gain in order to abandon desire and attachment to 5 aggregates of clinging. Just seeing the very true natures of mental and physical phenomena and its conditionality, that true knowledge is not enough to dispel this desire and attachment on these 5 aggregates of clinging, Pancha Upadana Skandha. We need to see their characteristics, the 3 characteristics, anicca, dukkha, and anatta, impermanent, dukkha, unsatisfactoriness, and anatta. So here are 3 things. Aniccang vedittabhang. We should know the anicca impermanent, and anicca lakhanang or anicca lakhanang vedittabhang. We should know the characteristic of anicca, and aniccanupassana vedittabha. We should know the contemplation on anicca. So the first thing, aniccang vedittabhang, we should know anicca. What is anicca? The commentators in the text, anicca is the aggregates, the 5 aggregates, or physicality and mentality. We should know this physicality and mentality. They are called anicca because all physicality and mentality, they disappear after arising. So every mind and matter, they dissolve right after arising. Therefore, all mind and matter are called anicca. Anicca, impermanent. So we should know impermanent. Every mind and matter occurring in 6 sense doors, they are anicca, impermanent. Why they are impermanent? They are called impermanent because they appear and disappear immediately. Therefore, they are anicca. Whatever we think, whatever we observe, whatever we see, rising, falling, sitting, touching, stretching, bending, lifting, moving, placing, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, everything, every objects and every noting mind, they disappear right after arising. Therefore, they are called anicca, and we need to discern those nature by practicing this Satipatthana meditation. But at the very beginning of the practice, we won't be able to see their nature of appearing and disappearing. We need to develop mindfulness and concentration. And later on, we will be able to see that nature of anicca, appearance and disappearance. So, those mind and matter, before they are not there, but because of certain cause, they arise, they appear. After arising, they will not stay there all the time. They dissolve, they disappear. Hutva abhavato. Before they are not there, but now they appear, they arise. And after arising, they do not stay there for a long time. They dissolve, they disappear, abhavato. Therefore, they are called anicca, impermanent. So when our mindfulness and concentration becomes stronger enough, we come to see this nature very clearly. In noting rising and falling movement at the beginning, we note that rising and falling movement in the abdomen with aiming and effort, we come to see only the middle part of that rising and falling movement. We won't be able to see from the very beginning till the end. We only see the middle part. After the rising starts, then we come to notice, oh, rising happens. After the falling begins, then we come to notice, oh, falling happens. In noting pain also, after the pain appear distinctly, then we come to know that, oh, there is pain. So we won't be able to see the beginning and end at the beginning of the practice. But we keep on observing it continuously and respectfully, then slowly we come to see the beginning. Now we can see, we can notice the beginning of rising and also the middle part, but still we won't be able to see the disappearance, the ending of rising. When we gain the knowledge of conditionality, when we see the release, how this mind and matter are related as cause and effect, at that time we see the beginning. We can see the beginning and also middle, but still the ending is not clear to us. But again, when we keep on observing these every arising objects with aiming and effort, then later on we come to see the beginning, the middle, and the ending. Means the whole process from very beginning to the end. We come to see that in noting rising. As soon as the rising starts, we notice it and we will be able to follow it till the end. And we see the ending very clearly. So here, the appearance, it starts, it begins, and the duration of that object, the rising movement, the duration or the presence, we come to know that, and the ending or disappearance. So appearance, presence, and disappearance. The starting, duration, and the ending, the whole process we come to notice, we come to discern because of strong mindfulness and concentration develop. And that's how we come to know the nature of impermanent, anicca, lakkhana. That is the characteristic of impermanence, anicca lakkhana. When we noting the pain also, we sometimes notice the beginning of the pain and we keep on noting that pain continuously, and also we come to see how the pain disappears, how the pain ends, how it dissolves, and how another pain occurs again, and how we keep on noting and how long does it take and how it disappears. So we come to see the beginning and also the middle part or duration and then the ending. That's how we come to know the nature of impermanence, anicca, lakkhana. And when we say we come to know this characteristic of anicca, this one we see through our own knowledge. Then this is our own knowledge, not we gain this knowledge not listening the talks, Dhamma talks, not reading the books, but through our own knowledge. And this one we see while we are observing the objects, not before or after. We are observing the object, for example, rising. We are paying attention in the abdomen. We are very attentive. We are keeping our all attention on the abdomen to note rising movement, and we see it from the beginning till the end. So this type of knowledge is the genuine knowledge, genuine Vipassana or the real Vipassana. So this is our knowledge, and when we see through our own knowledge the anicca lakkhana, then sometimes we contemplate that in the past also every objects, they arises, they stays there for a while and they disappears. We contemplate on that way. So that is the knowledge of contemplation, samasana jnana, and from here the real Vipassana knowledge begins. And this anicca lakkhana are this anicca lakkhana can be divided into two types. Now we see the beginning and the duration and then ending. So this is also the anicca lakkhana characteristic of impermanence. But when our knowledge develops, the mindfulness and concentration becomes even stronger, sometimes we only see the arising and passing away. Means we only see the beginning and the end, not the middle one, not the duration, not the presence. Only appearance and disappearance we will see, because we gain strong mindfulness and concentration. So this is also the characteristic of anicca lakkhana, impermanent. So at the knowledge of samasana jnana, the knowledge of contemplation, we see all three duration, the beginning, the middle, and the end. So this type of anicca lakkhana, we come to see because of respectful practice. So we should not look for the beginning. We should not look for the ending. We should not look for beginning and ending. We just need to pay attention to the presently arising objects continuously, and automatically we come to understand, we come to see the objects from very beginning to the end. So we should not try to find which is beginning and where it ends. We should not try to find the location of beginning and end. We just need to pay a full attention on it. Then we come to see very clearly. And when we keep on practicing like that, we come to see the very quick arising and passing away of the objects, the fleeting appearance and disappearance of the objects. So at that time, also the nature of impermanence becomes very clear, and that is the knowledge of rise and fall, udaya baya jnana. So when we see the very fast arising and passing away of those objects, we feel that, oh, they are not good. We cannot hold on to them. We try to hold it, but it disappears immediately. There is no more. We try to hold it, but no more. So they are not good. They are bad. They are unsatisfactory. Thus, the nature of dukkha becomes very apparent, and we cannot control this quick arising and passing away. We cannot control them. So that is the anatta. So when we see the nature of impermanent, then we come to see the nature of suffering and also nature of not self, anicca, dukkha, and anatta. So among these three characteristics, if we see one characteristic, the anicca lakkhana, then it is said that we also see other two, the dukkha and anatta. So when we have this knowledge, when we see this anicca lakkhana through our own knowledge, then that knowledge is aniccanupassana jnana, the knowledge of contemplation on anicca. And that is the real Vipassanā knowledge. And when we see the things appearing and disappearing so quickly, udayabhaya jnana, we may not be attached to it, because we try to hold it, there is no more, it disappeared already. Yeah, it dissolved already. So that way also we can, we will be dispelling this desire and attachment on the 5 aggregates of clinging. And this knowledge of rise and fall, at the beginning, though we say we see the very fast arising and passing away of the mind and matter, but at that time still it is not very clear yet. So at that stage, the 10 kinds of dhammas may arise. When we see the quick rise and fall of the objects, sometimes at that time our mind is very pure already, very clean already. So sometimes there might arise light. The light emerges from the body, sometimes very bright light, sometimes not very bright, sometimes surrounding us, but sometimes in the whole room we feel, we see that it is very bright. And sometimes if we do not have a knowledge, we take it as a special Dhamma. Oh, I already attained a special Dhamma. We think that way. And sometimes at that time, the knowledge becomes very sharp, very distinct. Whatever object we note, whatever mental and physical phenomena we observe, the knowing becomes very, very sharp, very, very distinct, very, very clean. And sometimes there might arise joy, pity. piti, joyful, we feel very satisfied. The joyous feeling may arise. Sometimes goosebumps, sometimes we feel the body is very light, the whole body feeling very good, very light. Sometimes we might feel there are the waves, very good waves, very comfortable waves flowing in the whole body. Sometimes we feel that our body is covered with something, very good feeling. So that type of piti may arise at that stage of Udyabhaya Jnana, the knowledge of rise and fall. And sometimes we feel that the body is very tranquil, the tranquility in the body and mind. Very good. It's very, very good. It's something like in summertime, when it is too hot and when we enter into the air-conditioned room, we feel very good. So that type of feeling sometimes arise at that time, and there is no discomfort in the body. The body is very light, very healthy, no discomfort, and if we feel that I can sit longer without having any discomfort, I can sit longer very easily. So that type of feeling sometimes we experience at the stage of this knowledge of rise and fall. And we feel sometimes very, very smooth and soft. And sometimes we feel sukha, happiness. The physical, there is no physical discomfort at all. Whole the body and mind is free of suffering, very peaceful. Sometimes we experience that sukha, and also sometimes we experience that very strong faith, adhimokkha, very strong faith, a decisive faith. At that time, because of that strong faith, sometimes we may be encouraging other people in our thoughts. We may be encouraging other people to practice this Vipassanā meditation because we experience this is very good. Now we can decide that this is the correct path. I am in the correct path. I am in the right path. So at the beginning of the practice, at that time also we do have faith, but that faith is not strong. That faith is not strong. But when we reach this stage of the knowledge of rise and fall, the faith becomes very strong, very decisive. We can decide, we can confirm that, oh, this is correct path. And if I continue this, if I continue to practice this meditation, surely I will gain the special Dhamma. We will have that type of faith. We can confirm that. So because of that faith, sometimes while observing the objects, sometimes we, instead of noting the presently arising objects, we may be preaching others. We may be telling other people to come and practice, how good this practice is. So that sattva, that type of faith and confidence may arise at this stage of the knowledge of rise and fall. And sometimes we experience that the effort becomes balanced. At the beginning, we need to exert a lot of effort. We need to exert a lot of effort, and that effort sometimes it is too much, excessive effort. We exert excessive effort, and other times the effort is not enough, the effort is weak. But at this stage of this knowledge of rise and fall, the effort just becomes the perfect one. We don't overshoot the object, and also we are not slacking. The effort is just good. And sometimes this noting becomes very automatic, very automatic. So that type of balanced effort we may experience at this stage. And again, we may experience that this mindfulness, it becomes very strong and firm. The firm mindfulness, the satipatthana, very firmly established mindfulness. We feel whatever object we note, we feel that the mind just stays on that object. The mind penetrates the object. So, and that mindfulness seems very effortless mindfulness. We don't need to do anything to have this mindfulness. We feel that the object, the noting mind keeps noting the objects automatically, one after another. We feel that we can now note every single object. We do not miss any object. We feel every single object is noted. So that type of strong mindfulness we may experience at this stage of the knowledge of rise and fall. And we feel that the mind is also, the noting mind is also in balance. The neutral or we feel we experience the equanimity that we don't need to look for the object. The object is just there and the noting mind just note the objects. We don't need to do anything. And we, every rising objects at that time, we will be able to note it with equanimity. So the noting mind just directly falls on the object. So we might experience that type of equanimity, upekkha, when we gain this knowledge of rise and fall. And the last one is nikkanti. Sometimes we take delight in notings. We are very happy. The mind is very delighted. The mind is very happy, and sometimes we are attached to the dhammas occurring at that time. Just now we talk about the piti, joy, rapture, the sukha and tranquility. So sometimes we may take delight on those feelings. So that is the attachment, nikkanti. So these 10 types of dhammas may arise. And when they arise, sometimes we think that, oh, this is special dhamma. Now I am at the destination. I arrive at the destination. This is the special dhamma. Sometimes we think that way. And when we think that way, now we do not put effort further. So we may stop there. So therefore, these 10 kinds of dhammas are called the impurities of insight. The impurities of insight. Therefore, At that time, we need a teacher. We need a teacher. If we do not have a knowledge, if there is no guidelines, sometimes we may attest to it and we stop our practice, thinking that I already achieved the special Dhamma. So these 10 kinds of Dhammas are the impurities of the Vipassana insight. And among the 10, the first 9 are actually not really the impurities, because they are good feelings, the good mental factors. They are good mental, beautiful mental factors. But if we forget to note them, for example, once we see a bright light, instead of noting, if we are just taking delight on that light, then that light becomes a hindrance for us. So if we are able to note that light as soon as we see it as a seeing or light, then that become object, and we are able to note that object, and that light may not be a hindrance for us. Therefore, if piti occurs, we have to note it immediately. The joy, or happy, whatever these dhammas arise at that time, we need to note it immediately. Then those dhammas will not be the impurities of insight, vipassana. If we fail to note those dhammas as soon as they arise, then they become the impurities of the insight, and we may not be able to progress further in the practice. And the last one, nikkanti, that is the attachment to those dhammas, that is the real attachment, that is the unwholesome dhamma, unwholesome mental state. So whenever we have that type of attachment, we again need to note it with full effort and aiming, so that we won't be attached to it anymore, and we can progress more further in the practice. And this type of dhammas, these 10 kinds of dhammas, they can arise at stage of this udyabhaya jnana, but this udyabhaya jnana of 2 levels. One is immature udyabhaya jnana and one is mature udyabhaya jnana. These 10 kinds of dhammas, they can appear at the stage of immature udyabhaya jnana. And if we are able to note all those dhammas whenever they occur, we will have this udyabhaya jnana to the level of matured, the matured level. We come to see only the arising and the passing away of the objects. Whatever object we note, we see that everything, it just arises and passes away immediately. So that is the balawa udyabhaya jnana, mature or strong udyabhaya jnana. And when we keep on observing the objects, then we will gain the another insight knowledge, the knowledge of dissolution. At that stage, we only see the dissolution, not the beginning, not the arising. We only see the passing away nature. We will not see the arising of the objects, because they are so swift, so fast, that we won't be able to notice the arising, but we only see the dissolution. That knowledge is the Panganya, knowledge of dissolution. And when we see everything is just dissolving, everything is just dissolving, disappearing, then we feel that, oh, there is nothing that we can rely on. There is nothing we can rely on. They all dissolved. They all dissolved. So when we feel that there is nothing to rely on, then the chanda raga, desire and attachment, will not arise. That is the dispelling of desire and attachment on the five aggregates of clinging. And again, when we keep on noting, because now we only see the dissolution, we do not see anything that we can rely on, just dissolving all the time, then there will arise a knowledge of fear, that is bhayanyana. We might have some fear, but this fear is not the unwholesome fear. Fear is, if we do not practice meditation, sometimes we may have that fearful nature, the fear. That fear is because of anger, dosa. But here, the fear may arise because we did not see anything that we can rely on. Nothing is dependable. So that seeing that dissolution, the fearful, the mind becomes very fearful, and that knowledge is bhayanyana. And at that time also, there will not arise this desire and attachment. So that way we can dispel the desire and attachment on the five aggregates of clinging. And that's what the Buddha means, that dispelling or throwing away the five aggregates of clinging means to dispel the desire and attachment on the five aggregates of clinging. And in order to be able to dispel that desire and attachment on these aggregates, we need to develop insight knowledge, real insight knowledge, stage by stage. So then, in the discourse of anthill, a Brahmana teacher asked his student to keep on digging that anthill, and the student followed his order. And what he found, that now he found the chopping board and a knife. And he told his teacher, "Oh teacher, I found here a chopping board and a knife." And the teacher asked him, "Okay, then you throw away that chopping board and knife." So what is that chopping board and knife? Then Venerable Kumara Kassapa asked the Buddha, what is that chopping board and knife means? And the Buddha explained to him that here the chopping board is the sensual pleasures, the objects of sensual desire, the sensual pleasures of visible form, sounds, smell, taste, and touch, tangible objects. They are the chopping board. And what is that knife? The knife means here kilesa, defilements. So kilesa, defilements, chopped beings, placing the beings on that chopping board. That's what the Buddha means. So there are many kinds of sensual pleasures in the world. And the defilements. Because of the defilements, the beings are pursuing those sensual pleasures, those sensual objects. And in pursuing sensual objects, they have to suffer a lot. They suffer a lot. So they, because they like to have those sensual pleasures, because of those defilements, they are doing wholesome and unwholesome deeds to gain those sensual pleasures, sensual objects. So that is how the defilements chopped the beings, placing them in this chopping board of sensual pleasure. So throwing the chopping board and these defilements means we need to throw the defilements. And if we dispel the defilements, then we do not need to be suffered. Therefore, to dispel defilements on those sensual pleasures, we need to develop the further insight knowledge. Without developing the further insight knowledge, we won't be able to dispel the defilements. We won't be able to eradicate the defilements. So what kind of knowledge do we need to develop in order to dispel this desire on the sensual pleasures, kama guna, that after gaining the knowledge of Payanyana, we need to develop the Adinavanyana, the knowledge of seeing the faults of this mind and matter. This mind and matter, the physicality and mentality, they dissolved very quickly, and so there is a fear arises, and we also come to reflect on that. They are not good. This physicality and mentality are not good. They are something disgusting. They are not something that we should attest to it. They are very disgusting. So when contemplating like this, when analyzing like this, they are disgusting, then we now feel, oh, we don't like it. We are not attached to it, and we feel very bored. The boredom here is also not the unwholesome. Because at the beginning also sometimes we feel bored because of laziness. But here the boredom, it is not the unwholesome boredom. This is the knowledge here. So we feel bored in noting, in seeing those mental and physical phenomena dissolving all the time. We see fault. So everything, every objects arising in sixth sense doors, now we are not very interested on those objects. So that type of knowledge will develop if we keep on practicing, and that knowledge is nibbida jnana, the knowledge of disenchantment, or the knowledge of disgust. And when we feel it is disgusting, now we will not be attached to it. We want to get rid of it. We want to release those mental and physical phenomena because we feel it is disgusting. So that type of knowledge is called Munsitu Kamyata Jnana, the knowledge of desire for release, the knowledge of desire for deliverance. We want to get rid of this physicality and mentality because they are very disgusting. Then, in order to get rid of that physicality and mentality, we again need to observe. We again need to observe every arising physical and mental phenomena in 6 sense doors. So we again try to observe every arising objects at that very moment, and then that knowledge is called the knowledge of reobservation, Patisankhanyana. That is also one Vipassanā jnana, insight knowledge. And when this knowledge of reobservation, Patisankhanyana, is matured, then another knowledge arises, that is the knowledge of equanimity. When this knowledge of re-observation becomes very strong, very matured, then the knowledge of equanimity, Sankharupekkha jnana, will arise. And at that knowledge, we feel very good. Very good, very smooth, very good. And we also will be able to note very refined, very subtle objects. The objects are not very gross type, like at the beginning of the practice. Every objects we note becomes very, very subtle, very, very refined, but still we can see, we can note it without any effort. Without any effort. Everything becomes very good, very peaceful, because the neutral feeling is also have a kind of sukha, happiness. So we feel very, very good. And there might arise again the raga, nandi raga, attachment. So in the discourse, when the teacher asks a student to throw away the knife and chopping board, he did that and he continued digging that anthill. What he found, that he found a piece of meat. Mangsa pesi, a piece of meat he found. So he told his teacher, "Oh, here I found a piece of meat." And the teacher asked him, "Then you throw away that piece of meat." So Venerable Kumara Kassapa asked the Buddha, "What is that piece of meat? What does it mean?" And the Buddha explained to him that that piece of meat refers to the attachment, Dhamma raga, we can say. But in Pali it is Nandi raga. This is also a desire and attachment. But this attachment is not the attachment to the sensual objects, the sensual pleasure. This is not attachment to the sensual pleasure, but this is a very refined attachment. Very refined attachment to the practice, to not the attachment to the knowledge we gain. Just now we say, when we keep on practicing, we will gain the knowledge of equanimity. And when we gain at that knowledge of equanimity, we feel it is very good, very smooth. We can sit 3-4 hours without moving, having the same momentum. The momentum of the practice is very good, very stable, no discomfort at all. No discomfort at all. The mind just sticks to the object. And there is a kind of very good feeling. And unknowingly, sometimes, unknowingly, there might be a very refined type of attachment to that feeling. That feeling, that is the Dhamma raga, the attachment to the Dhamma. And if we could not notice that attachment to that Dhamma, then we will stop there. We cannot gain the higher knowledge, the higher insight knowledge. That is why the throwing the piece of meat. Why? Because especially when the people are very fond of eating meat, they are very attached to it. So here also, this type of very good feeling when we experience, there might arise a very refined type of attachment, and if we do not note that, if we do not notice and note that attachment, we will not be able to gain the higher knowledge. Therefore, we need to dispel that refined, that subtle attachment to the Dhamma. Dhamma raga, we need to dispel it. And in the discourse, the student, when he throw away that piece of meat and he keep on digging, what he now found is a naga. The naga is actually, you can say, the dragon. Yeah, naga, dragon. He found the dragon. And he told his teacher, "Oh, teacher, I found a dragon here." And the teacher said, "Okay, then you don't do anything. You don't do anything. Don't touch naga, dragon. And you pay homage to the dragon." Yeah, you worship the dragon. You pay homage to the dragon. And Venerable Kumara Kassapa asked the Buddha, "What does that mean? What is that naga refers? What is that naga, and what to do? What is meant by homage to the naga?" And then the Buddha explained to him that the naga is none other than the arhat. So here, after dispelling the very refined type of attachment to the practice, to the knowledge, then he will gain the another insight knowledge, the anuloma jnana, the knowledge of conformity. And after gaining that knowledge, then he will gain the path and fruition knowledge. He will gain the Gotravu knowledge and then the path and fruition knowledge. He becomes Sotapanna. And this Sotapanna person, the stream enterer, if he again practice this Vipassanā to gain the other higher path and fruition knowledge, he need to practice the same way. And he need to develop those insight knowledge stage by stage. And he will attain the second path and fruition knowledge, Sakadagami. And he also again need to practice this Vipassana same way as we do now to gain the third path and fruition knowledge, to become Anagami. And again, this Anagami person also need to practice and develop insight knowledge stage by stage, and eventually he will gain the fourth path and fruition knowledge. Means he become arhat. So the arhat, when gaining the fourth path and fruition knowledge, one become arhat, and that arhat is a very pure, very clean person. He has eradicated all kinds of defilements. No defilements left. He has eradicated everything. He becomes very pure and clean, and he is a person need to be pay respect, need to be worshipped. So the Buddha explained to Venerable Kumara Kassapa about this, and after listening the Buddha's discourse, he practiced, and this Venerable Kumara Kassapa attained the fourth, all the part and fruition knowledge, and he became an arhat. So this way, in doing Vipassana practice, to gain this type of knowledge, what we have to do is we just need to stay in the present. Yeah, we just need to keep on observing the obvious physical and mental phenomena at that time with aiming and effort. This is only part, this is only way to reach to that level. There is no other way to reach that level, no other way to achieve this knowledge. This is the only part, and the instruction is just stay in the present. Try to observe, try to catch the obvious object at the present moment. And we just need to work on that way. But at the beginning, of course, it is not very easy. But if we keep on doing this job constantly, and surely we will also arrive to that level. And that's all for today.